One morning, an American man named Kurt had just arrived in Thailand. His purpose for going to Thailand was to learn martial arts and train under the legendary fighter Tong Po. However, his initial steps did not go smoothly. Before he could meet the master directly, he was required to pass a physical test against Tong Po's followers. His first opponent was Covey, a heavily drunk gatekeeper. Kurt easily defeated him.
He fights better when he's drunk.
But next, he had to face Storm, a muscular man with dreadlocks who was far tougher. With just one kick, Kurt was thrown to the ground. That night, Tong Po's men gathered to eat together and continue their training. During the session, Tong Po demonstrated his strength by kicking and shattering a huge rock, almost as tall as a human body. This left everyone stunned in admiration. When he asked who wanted to train with him, no one dared to step forward. They all chose to continue practicing with their own partners. Not long after that, two fighters began sparring, but Kurt didn't expect it to end in tragedy. One of them was killed. That night, when everyone was asleep, Kurt snuck into Tong Po's room with a gun in hand. He intended to kill him right then and there. But the plan completely failed. Tong Po already knew that Kurt had come to avenge his brother's death.
I should have.
The story then shifts to 3 months earlier in America. Eric, Kurt's older brother, was widely known as a talented kickboxing athlete who always won and had a collection of gold medals. He later received a lucrative offer from a woman named Marcia. She promised a huge cash prize if Eric agreed to fight Tong Po in Thailand. The fight was unofficial, with no rules and no referee, a pure underground brawl. Although the match was illegal and highly risky, Eric accepted the challenge, tempted by the money and driven by pride. Kurt had tried to stop Eric's decision. He advised his brother to focus on their gym business in America and only compete in legal matches. However, Eric ignored him and went to Thailand anyway. Sometime later, Eric sent his prize medal and a plane ticket to Kurt as an invitation. Touched by the gesture, Kurt decided to follow his brother to Thailand. Upon arrival, Kurt went straight to the arena, which was already packed with spectators. From a distance, he saw Eric fighting Tong Po. Unfortunately, Eric seemed overwhelmed. He was mercilessly beaten until he died tragically at Tong Po's hands. Soon after, police raided the fight location, but Tong Po managed to escape, leaving Eric's body in the middle of the ring. Kurt could only sit in despair, mourning his lifeless brother. At the police station, a female officer named Lou was visibly upset by the incident. She strongly condemned the illegal fights that often ended in death. Lou also regretted the fact that Tong Po always managed to escape the law. However, her colleague Watona just smiled without saying anything. Elsewhere, Kurt mourned over his brother's body at the autopsy room. Watona was also there, supervising Kurt. Shortly afterward, Marcia arrived at the morgue, and the enraged Kurt tried to strangle her. Fortunately, they were separated. Then Watona, who was secretly working with Marcia, ordered his men to take Kurt to the house of the person who trained Eric before the match and ensure that Kurt would take the prize money and leave Thailand. When he arrived at a house in Bangkok, Kurt met Master Durand, the trainer who had prepared Eric for the fight against Tong Po. Durand, a middle-aged man, gave him the remaining money from the fight.
if anything happened.
Kurt accused Durand of not training his brother seriously, which led to Eric's death in the deadly match. Watona's men then took Kurt to the airport and told him to return to America. However, Kurt managed to slip out of the airport and return to Tong Po's compound to take revenge. The scene then returns to the moment Kurt pointed a gun at Tong Po inside his room. But as he was about to shoot, Tong Po quickly snatched the gun and knocked Kurt down. At the same moment, police surrounded the compound. Liu arrived and took Kurt away. When Tong Po's assistant saw this, he ordered his men to kidnap the female officer. On the way, Kurt and Liu, who were in the same car, were ambushed by Tong Po's men. A fight broke out in the middle of the road, causing traffic to jam. Kurt had to face many opponents alone. When he saw Liu about to be kidnapped, he tried to save her, and they managed to escape to Durand's house. While recovering from his wounds, Kurt asked Durand to train him to fight Tong Po. Durand eventually agreed after seeing Kurt's strong determination. Once he recovered, Kurt began intense physical training every day.
The pain just...
As time passed, Kurt's strength and skills improved significantly. After seeing Kurt's progress, Durand took him to a kickboxing arena and asked him to fight a local fighter known to be unbeatable.
They're bad. Too wrong.
Kurt attempted to strike, but failed. He was quickly overwhelmed and eventually lost. Durand then stepped in and challenged the local fighter. With a single punch, the fighter was knocked out. The next day, Durand trained Kurt even harder. While Kurt was training, Covey, former member of Tong Po's group, arrived and begged to be trained by Durand. He admitted he was expelled from the compound due to his alcohol addiction. At first, Durand refused, but after Covey insulted and mocked Durand's failure in training Eric, Durand got angry and punched him.
Rick better.
They fought, and Durand easily defeated Covey. In the end, Durand accepted Covey and began training him. Kurt and Covey trained together. They also learned how to escape from Tong Po's deadly submission hold.
Bring them on! Let the invade!
After feeling strong enough, Kurt returned to Tong Po's compound to challenge him. Before accepting, Tong Po made Kurt fight his henchman Storm, who had once defeated him with a single kick. But this time, Kurt was no longer the same. He quickly took Storm down with a single kick. Seeing this, Tong Po accepted the challenge, and the fight was scheduled for the next day. The police learned of the fight because, unbeknownst to Kurt, he was wearing a wire. Liu discovered that Marcia was the mediator of illegal fights. The police began watching Marcia. The next day, Liu and her team arrested Kurt and Durand to prevent them from fighting. They were taken to a detention room. There, Kurt and Durand escaped by tricking the police and rushed to the arena. It was time for Kurt to fight Tong Po. The match was divided into 3 rounds. The first round was without weapons, the second and third with weapons. A fighter would be declared the winner if the opponent died.
That champions emulate the mouse.
The first round began. Tong Po easily landed punches and blocked Kurt's attacks. Kurt could only take the kicks and punches. The first round ended with Kurt lying on the ground. The second round began. Their hands were wrapped in cloth covered with shards of glass. Though Kurt managed to attack briefly, his injuries worsened due to Tong Po's attacks. The second round ended with Kurt down again. During the break, the police had already surrounded the arena. Lou ordered her men to arrest Marcia. Meanwhile, Duran motivated Kurt, reminding him that Tong Po was just a man.
We're the opponent.
He told Kurt to target Tong Po's head. Lou and her team sat in the stands, watching the fight. Seeing Kurt's determination, Lou decided to let the match continue until the end. The third round began. They used swords. The fight was evenly matched until both of their swords were dropped, and they continued fighting barehanded. Tong Po used the same deadly submission move he once used to kill Eric. But this time, Kurt escaped and retaliated, leaving Tong Po collapsed. Kurt didn't want to kill him and started to walk out of the arena. But suddenly, Tong Po got back up and attacked again. Kurt fought back, and the knife Tong Po was holding ended up stabbing himself. The match ended with Tong Po's death. Kurt knelt beside Tong Po's body to ensure he was motionless, then took his opponent's amulet and showed it to the crowd. Cheers erupted from the audience in celebration of Kurt's victory. Lou smiled happily from the stands, and Durand also cheered with joy. At the end of the story, Kurt and Lou prepared to leave Thailand. Lou decided to quit her job as a police officer and go to America with Kurt. Kurt vowed never to return to Thailand. Meanwhile, Covey became Kurt's assistant and joined them on their journey to America. The end. Revenge can indeed be a powerful motivation, but true victory can only be achieved through perseverance, hard training, and the courage to face fear. This film also teaches that crimes committed in the shadows of the law will eventually be exposed, and justice will find its way. Furthermore, it's important not to ignore warnings from those who care, because reckless decisions can lead to fatal consequences. And most importantly, never underestimate the determination of someone who fights not only for themselves, but for the dignity and family they love.